make Hamburger Helper, green beans, and garlic toast. And this may sound a little bit daunting, but it's actually very easy, and I think you'll agree with me. So with the Hamburger Helper, this is the Stroganoff variety. There are, of course, many different types: Stroganoff, macaroni. I think Lucy mentioned the beefy noodle. There's enchilada. And most of these have the kind of the same cooking instructions, but some of them vary. You do need to double check. For this, we will need milk and water, ground beef, and that is what I'm going to start with, is the beef. And what I'm going to do here is get that cooking. Should only take a few minutes. I had it defrosting overnight. So what I have here is one of these tubes of ground beef. And I'm going to kind of use a knife here to slice it open at one end. It really doesn't matter. You can cut it in half or whatever is easiest for you. And we're going to kind of now push it out. This is what I ended up with. Of course, if you're shopping at a physical store, if you prefer to get the trays, that's perfectly all right too. Okay, come on. There we go. I think I've gotten the trays actually are a little bit easier to work with, but I was doing grocery delivery, and of course, this is what I ended up with. So that's that. Okay, now that that is done, first thing I'm going to do is wash up just to avoid any contamination here. All right. So now we want to cook the beef. And while that is happening, I need this new wave to warm up. I'm just going to briefly tell you what all we actually need to make the Stroganoff Hamburger Helper. So first of all, 1 pound ground beef cooked, and that is what we're doing right now. We're cooking it. We also need 2 1/4 cup milk, and we're going to need 3/4 cup hot water. Now, this is one of those rare recipes that does call for the water to be hot, and I think it's because it activates the pasta more quickly. You will find in the box of Hamburger Helper a packet of Stroganoff noodles, or any type of noodles, depending on which one you get. These are kind of like flat spirals. I think that's the best way to describe it. And you will also see a sauce packet. It'll look like it'll be a little sachet that will have a powder inside. Now, and that can be, both of these, to open them, I'll explain more in a minute, but the sachet does have a very defined seam on one end, and the packet is just your standard package. You can kind of open, or you can use scissors, whatever you feel most comfortable with. You're also going to need a strainer, because you will need to drain the meat once it has cooked. And then I selected green beans as a side dish, because that's what Chanel and I really like. And I think garlic toast goes well here too, though if you're counting carbs, maybe not such a good idea. But again, that is a personal preference. And if there's any other side dishes that you would like, of course, to go along with it. But salad also works really well with this as well. You only need, you can use 1 pot for everything. You can use 2 different pots. Well, not the green beans, but for the Hamburger Helper, because what you have to do is, after it cooks, is you have to put it back into the pan and add in the sauce mixture and liquid and all that type of stuff. And we don't, that we don't even cook in until after the hamburger is cooked. But you may want to use a pot just because it technically does call for it to be covered while cooking on low. I find it's just as easy to keep stirring myself, but you can of course do either method. So now the pan has started to heat up, so I'm starting to stir the beef. Now, does anybody have any questions at this point or comments? Yep, if you do,
Deborah.
Deborah, yes.
Yeah, whenever I cook hamburger, I never seem to be able to break it up into fine enough pieces. What is your secret doing it by feel?
So first of all, it always helps to make sure it's fully defrosted. That is, thing number one. If you try to do it from frozen, that is going to be a nightmare to break up. Second of all, it really can depend sometimes on the brand. For instance, we have a local store called HEB that they, their ground beef is more like in chunks. But then you've got other brands that, standard brands that do have it finely chopped up. For instance, the stuff in the tube is well ground up, but as you're stirring, you'll kind of find that you'll break it up more with the spoon as you're going along. And you can just kind of like smash the spoon into the beef from time to time with the side of it. So kind of like this bang, 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 like that. And that'll also help break it up. But finally, I find it the easiest to, because we have to drain it before adding any other stuff anyway. The easiest way to make sure that it's fully broken up is by hand once it is in the strainer. You will lose a lot of the little tiny pieces, but I find that to be the easiest way myself to break up hamburger. And does anybody else, if you have any comments on that, you may raise your hand, and Lucy, our excellent host, will acknowledge you.
Guess not.
Guess not? Okay. So I never know, I might be surrounded by experts here. So, okay. So does hopefully, Deborah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I usually use a wooden spoon, and maybe I should try using a metal spoon. I was always worried about scratching my skillet.
Sadly, that you probably will. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, you will. But for me, it's a matter of what can I feel better with. And that wins out over concern. For me, I guess I'm a little bit more on technique and less about what could be. But yeah, that is a legitimate concern about scratching the skillet. But I do find, I feel the pan a lot better with a metal spoon than I do with a wooden spoon.
Well, I'm going to try it. I have skillets that aren't non-stick, so I'll just use a regular skillet, an iron skillet, and a metal spoon next time. See if I'm more successful.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to finding out the results. We will be here every 2 weeks at the same time, and even though I'll be doing something completely different next time, I'd still look forward to finding out if it worked, or if you encounter me ahead of anywhere else. I'd love to know if I was able to be of any help or not. So.
Okay, Chanel.
Yeah, so would a fork work? Or like once it's kind of thought, because that's kind of the same metal type thing, or would a fork not work so well?
A fork might work well if you're sighted.
Oh, okay.
But I wouldn't be able to. Let's see. We'll try Chanel's suggestion in real time.
Okay, area code. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just real quick. Yeah, the fork. Like, I can tell I'm spearing the stuff. I can't tell if it's breaking up or not. But it's not a bad. This does feel like it would scratch the skillet up more. Okay, I do apologize. Area code
562 ending in 480.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, who's this?
Hey, this is Raul.
All right.
The Okay, Deborah was asking about the using a wooden spoon compared to a metal spoon. She could also use a silicone spoon. Those work pretty good.
Oh, there you go.
Those, yeah, especially if you're concerned with scratching your pan. The silicone
Excellent.
spoons work very well.
Excellent suggestion there. Well, thank you, Raul.
Okay.
And this isn't all about me. I mean, it kind of is and kind of isn't, because I don't claim to know everything. So we definitely enjoy, comments, suggestions. And, like in Chanel's case, I even tried it out just to see what I thought. So, by all means. So I'm still cooking the hamburger here. I think I have the meat too low, or I don't know, but so now the other thing I've not really talked about much is the garlic toast. So there, of course, is plenty of homemade garlic bread you can make. I'm gonna do in the frozen stuff. I'm gonna make a homemade one today, though, where we're gonna put some toast on a cookie sheet and then use a little bit of butter and some garlic powder. I'm hoping I'm making your all mouths water, but and so the tricky thing is, telling by feel when the meat has defrosted, fully cooked, and but I can tell now we are definitely making some progress. You should be able to hear the sizzling. Here, I will pause. And it would probably help if I turned on my kitchen fan as well, just to help start eliminating some of the odors. We can't always have the windows open because those let in nasty, creepy, crawly flies. And I hear those are delicacy in some places, but not for this kitchen and for this call. So,
Okay, excuse me. Deborah has her hand raised.
Deborah.
Well, the one thing I never had trouble with is knowing when it was done. But what I did is I timed every time I cooked hamburger. When I decided I had it perfect, it was for me on my stove. It was 8 minutes. So now I just always time 8 minutes, and it's always exactly done at the right amount. It was breaking it
Yep.
up that was hard for me. Knowing when it was done was easy.
Yep, the 8-6. Even the recipe calls for when it tells you to brown the beef about 6 to 8 minutes. So that is definitely standard. Depending on the heat. Now, do you use like medium heat? Do you use high?
I have a gas stove, and I use
Okay, yeah.
not really high, but probably hotter than you're using on what I think is an electric.
So this is actually a new wave that I'm using here. I'm cheating. It's an inductive burner, so it might actually be a little bit more equal to the gas stove, but gas is definitely I have worked with a gas stove at one time, so I know all about that. And
A lot of time people are scared of gas stoves, but I love it because I feel like I can tell exactly how hot it is by putting my hand above the burner and lowering it. So it doesn't make me nervous at all, but I have it usually not on the highest, closer to high than to low. And for me,
yes.
it's 8 minutes.
So to be fair, and I'm not trying to, belittle anybody, I find that a lot of blind individuals are not comfortable with stovetop cooking in general, whether it's gas or electric. But yes, gas can seem scary. I have worked with it, and in my case, it was not one of these modern gas stoves too, though I have worked with that once or twice. This was an old apartment building from like the 1940s, and that may even be too modern, I don't know. But so it was one of those old gas stoves, and I did work well with it. My girlfriend at the time did not do too well when it came to baking. There was like this some recipes that called for melting chocolate, and I think she found the heat too much to work with. But gas ovens I found a little bit trickier myself, especially for heating frozen things. But yeah, they are definitely workable. Now, lighting them, that was another thing altogether, but okay, so I think we're just about done here. And I think I actually had my heat, like I said, a little bit lower than I needed it to be, but on the other hand, we're not going to burn anything either. So I guess that is a major plus. Okay, now I'm going to get my strainer, and I'm going to also now eliminate some of the background call noise on the call here to oh, I guess I can't from here. Okay, never mind. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to take the strainer and the pan to the sink. And I'm going to kind of set the pan onto the side of the strainer here and just tilt it sideways into the strainer. And you can feel it all come tumbling down. All right, we're gonna put the pan in the sink for a minute. And now we're going to kind of just shake some of this grease out of the meat. And you will have grease and tiny little chunks of ground beef coming out. And if you can stand hot stuff, you can kind of break it up with your hands a little bit as you're going along. And I just kind of like to spread it around too, so that way it has more of an opportunity for the grease to come out. And depending on what ground beef you get to, the thing with the less greasier one, you know, like the more leaner the meat, sometimes I find that I find those a little bit harder to cook because they tend to stick more to the pan because it doesn't generate enough grease. But of course, the less leaner, you know, the more stuff you have to drain out of the strainer, so you have to really take your pick there. Okay, I'm gonna set this to the side. I've done all the shaking out I need to do. And I'm going to rinse this pan with cold water because that'll make it cool enough. Do we have cold water here in Texas? Yes, we do. But that's gonna make it cool enough to now that I can scrub it out and I can use the same pan for the actual stroganoff. So I'm going to use a soapy washcloth and run it under the cold water. And then we're just going to scrub, scrub, scrub here. And I see a little bit of a stuck spot there. Okay. And voila, we have us a clean pan that I can now use once again. So we're going to rinse it out because we don't want to cook any soap into our food. That would be very problematic. So I'm just going to run it now under some hot water and make sure that it feels clean. And I've got some extra ground beef that's trying to clog up the sink. So I'm having to get that out the drain. Okay. Now that we've done that, I'm also going to rinse the handle because I will still need it again. Okay. And it'll make it much more easier to hold. I do like to grip the handle of the pan so I know where it is. And now I'm going to dry it off. Because again, we don't want to cook any extraneous water into our food that we do not need. Though I guess since this called for hot water anyway, it may not be too bad, but nevertheless. Okay, so now I've done that. We're going to put this towel up. I do apologize, my throat is killing me today. Okay. I'm going to put this pan back on its burner and I'm going to pour the meat in. from the strainer. I set the strainer back in the sink. I'm going to need that for the green beans in a little bit. So now let's get to our stroganoff. So I'm going to take these two items over here to my stove top, and we are going to pull the pack of stroganoff packets open. There is a seam on one side and it's flat on the other, typical of packaging. And then we just pour them, and I just kind of use my hand to spread it out evenly throughout the pan. Next is our sauce packet. And I can just kind of tear it from the seam side. And now it makes a nice little hole that I can pour the sauce out of. And down to the last bit. Come on, let's get out. Thank you. All right, now that that is done, it's time to get out the measuring cups. So thanks to Blind My Smart, I actually have something totally cool, a 2-cup measuring cup. And I'm going to make full use of that today. And then I also need a 1/4 cup. If you are a Braille reader, these cups are very useful to have because it has the Braille engraved right onto them. And you can easily feel what measuring cup it is. Otherwise, you just have to guess by size. And the way to do that is to make sure all the cups fit into each other. And then you'll know which one you have. So the bigger cup, the standard 4-cup measuring cup will be the biggest cup is your cup, then 1/2 cup, 1/3 cup, and 4th cup. And that is how you can tell your different measuring cups if you do not have any kind of accessible labeling. And, so you just stack them all together and make sure they fit. And the big cup is easy to identify anyway because it's so massive. And again, if you have the get the ones from Blind My Smart, those come with some additional cups that go as large as the 2-cup. So I've gotten out the milk, and this calls for 2 1/4 cups milk. So I'm going to hold the measuring cup over the pan as well as the milk bottle, so that way any excess will spill right into the pan, like is what's happening right now. And so now I'm going to dump that into the pan and move this cup to the sink. I'm going to rinse off my hands. And now I'm going to need my 1/4 cup. And what's nice about this is we get to use the same cup for both things. So as soon as I don't knock it onto the floor, I'm trying to find it. There we go. Okay. Since it's been on the floor, I will go ahead and rinse it out because you can never be too safe. With a little bit of soap and water. And we're going to do that. Okay, now I'm going to dry this off. And can somebody tell me what time it is, please?
Sorry, I was muted.
Computer,
It's 10:25.
what time is it?
Okay,
25.
thank you very much. Well, it's actually 9:25, but
Yeah, well, no, whatever. 25 after the hour.
yes.
Yep, it's 25 after the hour. I just checked with Lady C over here.
All right, so with 2 time checkers, I guess I cannot go wrong. So now I just poured my other 1/4 cup of milk into the pan. Despite my best efforts, some spilled over the side, so I will have to clean that up in a minute. But we do have one other thing I need to do next, and that is our hot water. And I wanted to make sure that our timing is good because I don't want to get in hot water for going over. So now I'm running the hot water in the sink, and we're just going to put the cup underneath it. It calls for 3/4 cups hot water. And by the way, if you forget this, it's very easy to Google instructions for like Stroganoff Hamburger Helper, and just to have it in front of you or to refresh your memory. So if you forget exactly what I'm doing here today, you have a reference point, and it'll take you to the Betty Crocker website. So that is another way. All right, 3rd cup of hot water, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the pan, the burner here. It calls for it to start us off on high for a few minutes and then take it down to a low. So that's what I'm going to do. In the meantime, we're going to make some green beans. So while this is cooking, because I guess we could at least start by giving it a good stir. So the green beans are very easy to make. Okay, so we just want to make sure this is all nicely, evenly distributed. And sometimes a pot is a little bit easier just because stuff can't go over, but so just make sure my spoon, it feels like it's all over. And we'll just keep, as the liquid kind of softens the noodles, it will become easier to stir. So I'm going to now make the green beans. So what we've got here is a can of the unsalted green beans. Not that it matters, but the unsalted ones are nicer because you can add whatever you want to them and all that. So I'm going to use a can opener. These do not have the pull top can, but I have a manual can opener. I'm going to squeeze down on the lid. And if you were on my green bean casserole call, you heard me do this before. And we're going to turn the knob on the side until it feels differently. And now I can tell my lid is off. So what is nice about canned green beans is we get to use the water that's in the can along with the green beans. All I have to do is take the lid and push it to the side. And now I can just pour the entire contents into the pan, and the lid came off. There we go. I forget the ratio to water if you're using frozen green beans, but if you're using the can, like I said, it can really come in handy. Now we're going to add some butter to give them a little bit of flavor. And I like to use the stick butter for this. I find that it cooks the best, and I prefer the spreadable butter for when I need to spread it. But that's just my personal preference. So I'm going to take out a knife, and we're going to just cut a little chunk off the stick. You only need a butter knife, not very sharp. And you can use as much or as little butter as you don't want to use too much, but we're going to set that squarely in the pan. And then to add some extra flavor, I'm going to have add some garlic powder as well. And I'm going to use the same garlic powder for the garlic toast, but we like garlic around here. And I'm just going to sprinkle that in the pan. Definitely make sure some gets on the butter because it'll help it spread. And now all we need to do for our green beans is I will need to do an occasional stir with those as well, but we're going to turn the oven on to high and let them sit for a few minutes. And now as I'm getting back to my stroganoff, does anybody have any questions at this point?
Hello, Herbie, and everybody. Just so you
And
know,
all right,
you-
real quick. Yep, and real quick, Celeste, because I forgot to mention this as well, and I should have had Lucy run us through the drill, and I do apologize. We do these ACB calls. We do the raised hand method, where you raise your hand and the host acknowledges you. So just so you are aware for the future, and I do apologize for neglecting to mention that earlier. All right, so go ahead. Celeste.
Celeste, you're muted.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we will come
There
back.
you are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Celeste. You're muted.
I'm not sure if you're on your phone or computer. If you're on the phone, the mute button is kind of towards the.
Oh, now
There
I
you
now
go.
I can be heard. Now I can be heard. Okay, I gotta. I see. I'm so used to Clubhouse. I haven't used Zoom in a while. So
I know how that goes.
just so you guys know, when you use the garlic powder for the green beans and the garlic bread, this is a segment on Herbie's cooking show called "Same Ingredient, Different Dish."
There you go. All right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, you are absolutely right. Okay. Thank you for that, Celeste.
It's the food version of same title, different song, folks.
It is. Yes, indeed. I guess I like use a lot of similarities in different things. So I actually am pretty boring, guys, to be honest with you, to know the truth. But okay. Any other raised hands? And if you, by the way, real quick, if you're on the computer, Alt Y
Alt
raises your
Y.
hand. Yep.
Alt Y on the PC, Option Y on your Mac. On your landline phone or push button phone, it is *9. And on your smart devices, it's under the More option in the lower right-hand corner. Double tap on that, and you'll see, oh, Armando.
Armando, yes.
Okay, now you got it. It's kind of hard to switch from phone to screen one, screen other. But anyways, have you ever tried, Herbie, doing this with bacon on green beans or any other else?
Excellent question. So we have never done this with bacon. We could do it with, we don't eat bacon, but we could, I guess, do it with turkey bacon. If I was going to do that, I would pre-cook the turkey bacon or whatever bacon first on, like, say, a Foreman grill. And then I would, or if you get like the store-bought bacon bits, you can stir those in. Maybe not stir those in right away, kind of wait towards the end at the last minute.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to get burnt or too soft or whatever. But now this is starting to soften up a little bit in the pasta.
So another question too,
Yeah.
Herbie, just for people's general reference.
Yes.
You know, because some do and some don't know. But what exactly, like, especially because me and Anna are barely getting into the whole air frying thing. But what exactly is a new wave?
Okay, excellent question. So a new wave has been around well before the air fryer. It is, excuse me, and what I would call an inductive burner. And so what is really nice about it, so if you're pan frying stuff, when you put the pan on the burner, that's when it activates. But if the pan falls off for any reason, then the thing stops. So you don't have a situation where, like you can accidentally leave the burner on and it'll cause a fire or anything like that. I like it better than the electric skillet just because I can do a lot more higher temperatures. And it reminds me of cooking with a gas stove because I feel like the heat is a little bit more evenly distributed, and because it's its own unit, it only has the one burner, so you don't have to figure out, okay, it's one, whatever pan you use for it is going to fit on it, whether it's large or small. So I also recommend, and I forget if somebody can tell me more specifically when this is, but a great cooking thing to attend on Wednesday nights is It's Electric, where they will talk a lot more about these different things. And it's one of our ACB calls. It's every other Wednesday. And they will go into a lot more detail about, the different air fryers they know about and all that good stuff. And I'm not sure when the next It's Electric call is, but I will make sure you are made aware of that.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, it is tomorrow.
Yep.
So, all right, that makes it easy then. So both mine and It's Electric calls are on the same week. So.
Oh, yeah.
That makes that easy. All right, thank you, Lucy. And that'll be at, I think it's around 4 or 5 your time. And I'll make sure you have that information. Okay, do we have any other raised hands?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, we are just getting out the cookie sheet, as you heard, for the garlic toast. And first thing I'm going to do, maybe a bit excessive, I don't think so. We're just going to spray a little bit of Pam on here. Green beans, I know, are cooking well. I checked on them a few minutes while answering questions. And the thing with them is just to kind of leave them, and I will. But the last thing I do want to mention, actually, with cooking the green beans is depending on the texture, will depend on how long you cook them. You know, Chanel, for instance, does not like them too soft or mushy, and I can totally sympathize with that. So only needs about 2 or 3 minutes here. All right, I think these are done. So I'm going to turn off that burner. I did use the stove for the green beans. And we're just letting the stroganoff cook. So now we're going to make some garlic toast. I'm going to get out bread, and this time the spreadable butter for this. And where's my bread? There it is. And I'm just going to use some whole wheat bread that I have here, but you could use any kind. And we're going to do about 4 slices, I think, 2 for each of us. And we're going to do this. I'm just placing them flat on the cookie sheet. And I already have my oven preheated to about 350. And by the way, if you ever want to make anything interesting, you know, I do this method for cinnamon toast. Where I put the butter and cinnamon on the toast and bake it in the oven, or just regular toast too. You know, it's a very different experience having the butter baked into the bread as opposed to spreading it on afterwards. So I encourage you all to try that out. And we're going to get the lid off the butter, and we're going to set it to the side here. Make sure you have it away from the stove or any heat, because you do not want it to melt in the tub. That would create some problems. So now what I'm going to do is take a spoon and place some butter on each slice of bread. And then we're going to just kind of spread it around. And Chanel, can you get that, please? All right. I think it's just a delivery person, and either that or it's unscheduled maintenance or something. Unexpected visitors always makes but this is a live call, and I guess we just get what we get. It may be a package. Okay, looks like it's a package, so no actual disruptions to our call there. So that is very much a relief. Okay, so we're just going to kind of spread the butter around a little bit evenly. You can use a spoon. That's the easiest, or knife works as well. And then, you know, depending how much butter you like will depend on how much you use. And then I'm going to put the lid back on the butter. And then we're going to use our very same garlic powder that I used for the green beans. Well, the same container, not the, you know what I mean. Anyway, so we're just going to sprinkle some, depending on how much you like garlic, depend on how much you sprinkle. Some is probably going to end up on the cookie sheet unless you're really are good at really being careful. I am not. So, all right, I'm going to put that up, and then we're going to put this cookie sheet in the oven. Amazon, set timer for 7 minutes.
Okay, Celeste has her hand up. Celeste.
Sure.
And just a tip for you guys: if you don't like getting gunk all over your pan, you can
Set
always
timer for
cover it.
7 minutes. Hold on, guys. My Amazon is being problematic here. So
If
we'll
you
use
want,
the
I can
Apple Watch
set it.
instead.
You want, I can set it on this end. Computer. Set a
I
timer
already
for
got it
7
set.
minutes.
Yep, I already got it set, but thank you. All right.
So what I was
Anyway,
gonna say is, if you have kind of messy ingredients and you don't want it to get all over your cookie sheet or your baking pan, you can cover the pan in aluminum foil, and then when you're all done, you can just toss that foil and you're good to go.
yes, indeed. I should have thought of that for the cookie. I never think of it for the cookie sheet because it's much larger, but yes, indeed. Aluminum foil is a great trick for that, and it can make cleanup a whole lot simpler. Thank you for that excellent tip there, Celeste.
No problem.
So the stroganoff is looking quite nicely here. I want to make sure it does fully cook. You can kind of, usually you can kind of feel it bubbling a little bit in the pan.
Okay,
And
Carrie has her hand up.
Carrie, welcome, Carrie.
Hey, Herbie. Hey, since you're already using stick butter,
Yep.
what you can do, and I find it pretty easy, is melt like a tablespoon of that stick butter.
Yep.
And then add a product called garlic paste. It's out of the produce aisle, and it's very fresh garlic that's already minced and mushed for you. And so then you can paintbrush your bread, and it seems to be easier to control.
That sounds like it would be more delicious too.
Well, and then on top of that, since you're using that great product of the unsalted beans, the leftover butter with that garlic in it, you just pour that over the beans.
Oh, there you go.
It really ties your meal together.
Now that definitely sounds like an excellent idea, and I'm going to definitely try that. So I think we'll redo this again in a couple weeks with Carrie's idea. No. But I will definitely give that a try. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
All right, garlic paste. I will be looking for that. I see we're getting some great tips on here, by the way, folks. So just a heads up, in a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing one of my least favorite things here, and that is baking. But, since it is a morning call, I figure I want to cater to the breakfast people a little bit too. And since we have a neighborhood coffee clutch right afterwards, why not make a coffee cake? And the coffee cake has all the proper ingredients you need for breakfast anyway: milk, eggs, flour. So, perfectly acceptable. So, by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention is, like sometimes, so I have several different things I can use as a timer. I like to use my Apple Watch the most. I do also use like the Amazon devices sometimes if I don't have my watch on or whatever. So that's usually my secondary timer. And I was just washing out the strainer, by the way, folks. I forgot to mention that so we can drain the green beans. But so that's what I do for a timer, is I use the Apple Watch or whatnot. Okay, we're going to pour the green beans over. And I like to use a really small skillet for the green beans. It doesn't, makes minimum fuss. So that's what I do. And then I use a larger pan, for the Hamburger Helper. Okay. I think we're almost done here with the food, and Chanel will be our resident taste tester. And if it meets with her approval, then we did good. If not, well, that is unfortunate. Now, there's no easy way sometimes to tell if this Hamburger Helper is done, just by really how it feels with the spoon. It should feel thick and, not runny. So that is one way to tell. If you're still unsure that it's cooking properly, you can set it to medium and have it cook a little bit more like this. I think it could actually thicken up a tiny bit. So we're just, again, I'm still using the metal spoon. I'll have to look for some silicone spoons and see how that works. Okay, now it's actually starting to thicken up the way it should. So you want it to feel thick, not runny. And you do have to be careful because sometimes the stuff will try to stick to the pan. So sometimes you're doing a scraping method with your spoon to make sure it doesn't stick and burn and all that. Let's see here. And I can definitely smell that the garlic toast is almost done. Now I can tell that this is done too. All right, I think we're making some. Of course, if you overdo it, the noodles are going to start to become a little bit inedible and chewy, but at the same time, if you underdo it, then the noodles could be too hard and inedible that way. And this side, it probably cooks a little bit easier on the stove, but when I start to use 2 burners around here, my fire alarm gets all panicky, so that's why I did not. Okay. All right. Now we're going to turn the burner off, the new wave off. So the only question remains is, how do you serve this stuff? Well, I find, a measuring cup works the best. And for this, that is what I like to use. Oh, I guess my timer did work. Amazon, stop. Okay. So now we're going to turn off the stove, and I'm going to, okay. That is a strong scent there, and then my Apple Watch went off too, and the Celeste Echo will be going off any second now if it isn't already, and we're going to take the cookie sheet out. And we're going to, now it's easiest if you can wait till it's cooled down, but all of it, of course. Oh, but we've actually got 12 minutes left. Okay, not bad. Are there any questions at this point while I'm letting things cool down for a second?
Celeste.
So, well, first of all, I canceled the timer when I realized yours was set. Secondly, the dishing it out with a measuring cup is a great idea. I never thought of that because I've always used serving spoons, and I'm always having to be very careful. Oh, am I going to fill this before it gets to the plate? And so that's a great idea.
You'll find the measuring cup a lot easier because things will just stick in there much more easier. So I'm glad I was able to give you a good tip there. All right. Any other raised hands?
Nope.
No? Okay. And by the way, for those of you, if you come to the neighborhood coffee clutch afterwards, I will be putting some of this on the back table along with the other goodies that Cindy will have out for us. I think she usually makes like those low carb muffins and whatnot.
So yes, this is Stephanie. How did you manage to put all those ingredients together? You just put them in one bowl, or
I just put them in the pan, the same pan, yes. And make sure if you're on the phone, by the way, to raise your hand, it's *9. But yes, I put it all in one pan in this particular instance. And then I poured the milk and the water over them and cooked it all together.
Oh, wow.
And it's very easy to do.
We used to have beef stroganoff when I was in school. We used to eat that all the time.
Ah, excellent. That is some good stuff, real beef stroganoff. Okay, so I'm just going to use the measuring cup here to kind of like act as a scoop. And I can tell the cup isn't full, so I'm going to just put in a little bit more. And that'll be good for now because we can always serve more later on. Now I'm going to take it over to the table where Chanel may or may not be able to try it. Oh, I forgot to serve the garlic toast. That's not good. So we're just going to grab a slice of bread, place that there, and place another one on top of it. Now we're going to very carefully carry this plate over to the table. And there you go. Hamburger Helper Stroganoff, green beans and garlic toast, all served under an hour.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions, comments? I will
Okay,
also take, oh, yes.
Stephanie?
Stephanie. *6 to unmute.
*6.
Actually, I'm on the
There you go.
iPhone. I'm on the
I think
iPhone.
that's good that you're able to get this done in an hour like that. That's pretty quick.
I've had a lot of practice, to be fair, but okay. And Celeste, were you wanting to say something?
Well, I'll just say this, Hobie, that if you had been on an episode of Cooking Wars, you would have won getting that done in under an hour.
That's good. Though
He would have won the bake-off. He would have won the biggest bake-off ever, probably, for the cook-off.
Probably, though they probably expect more professional cooking there, because this is cheating out of a box, remember? So I'm just looking for it to see if you have a water glass. Yes, you do.
Okay, Anne.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Anne.
Yes, I am having trouble trying to learn to use a manual can opener, and I just wondered if you had any tips as to how to do that.
So I may be the wrong person to ask because I do have decent mechanical ability, but what you want to do is, so most cans, first of all, you want to feel which is the lid side, and it's going to feel flat. The lid side is going to be flat, and then it's going to feel more like a jar lid on the bottom. So you want the flat side, not the raised side. And then I would set the can flat on the countertop or in the pan if you don't have the stove preheated. And how's the food, by the way, Chanel?
I was raising my hand.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I can't see that. Sorry. So we'll get to Chanel in a minute. That's why we have a host here, because she can help me out with these things. But anyway, I set the can flat, and then I will place the can opener, open the blades, and you want to set the top blade on top of the can and make sure the groove fits into the side of the can, and then kind of press it down together till it clicks. And then start turning. It doesn't matter if the can spins or not, just as long as it's staying securely and holding the two sides, hold it securely. And eventually you're going to feel the lid come off. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, and if anybody else
All
has
right.
any other tips they'd like to give, we would definitely appreciate that. Okay, who's next?
Chanel.
All right. I was just trying to follow procedure, but this is excellent. The toast could have a little bit more flavor, but I think maybe that garlic paste might be good.
Yes.
Or whatever it was you were taught. Kind of missed that part. But the Hamburger Helper is delish. So everything is really delish. So it's so wonderful to be able to actually eat what's being made right on the call.
And like I said, well, the rest of you get the virtual experience, and there's no carbs too with the virtual experience. So, all right. Well, thank you, Chanel.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments on anything?
I just have one little tip for Anne about using a can opener. Once you clamp the two sides together on the can opener, try to make sure that you hold it vertically in your hand so that if you angle it at all, it might slip off the can.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, the toast could have, maybe I could have cooked it a little bit more and had the butter spread out more evenly. So I'm going to try that tip though with the garlic paste and the butter. Okay, there's stuff in my spot. I better go
Anna
deal with that
Estrada.
first. Anna!
And
Well, I actually, because I didn't know how to open the cans myself, I've always had it where it slipped on my end as well. So thank you for the tip.
sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's what this show is about, to help you in any way that I possibly can. And Anna was one who really gave me grief a couple weeks ago off the call because she makes tacos. Her family makes tacos, the taco season the real way, not out of a packet, the way us Americans do. So I got a lot of grief for that, and so. But I've tried to. I'll tell her she can get on here and give us the recipe. But yeah. But Armando and the other Anna, we actually have two Annas on here, by the way, folks. But they might actually completely sympathize with her on that particular point. Making tacos and inviting authentic Mexicans on here is maybe not a good idea for me. I don't know.
Do you think you could make this in the
Trust me, there's gonna be a lot of
crock-pot, though?
cooking.
Sorry.
Yeah, do I think I could make the stroganoff in the oven?
In the slow cooker.
I think Lucy has an
maybe
opinion
not.
on that one. So
I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't think so. Because I think the pasta is kind of a special kind of pasta that cooks more quickly. And so I think if you tried to do it in the slow cooker, the pasta would get gluey.
Oh wow.
What do you think, Herbie?
I've never thought about it till I got this question about an hour ago. It's something that worth Google and see if that comes up with any results. But on the whole, I'd say probably not. I think if you really wanted to do a hamburger stroganoff in the slow cooker, I would find a real pasta recipe, like a real stroganoff, because you can get the package of real stroganoff noodles. You'd still need to brown the ground beef. You're not going to get away from not doing that regardless. Anyway, though, and you're going to need to make your own sauce.
Right.
But so I'd find a way I'd do a real hamburger stroganoff in a slow cooker, probably not the Hamburger Helper. I will double check though, and if I see anything useful on Google, I will pass that along to you as well. So.
All right, we're at the top of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, guys, this has been fun. Coffee cake in a couple weeks.
Nice.
This is good.
Great job.
Thank you. All right, and I will talk to you all later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome call.
And
Yes,
great job,
indeed.
and great job hosting, Lucy, by the way, too. So.
Thank you. You're welcome.